And we're back. Welcome back to ThomCraft. No, ThomCraft. Welcome back to FoolCraft 3. We'll be talking about ThomCraft. Yeah, welcome back to the ThomCraft action. So, I was kind of hitting a bottleneck with the ThomCraft research because I was getting to where there was about to be some nasty flux stuff going on in the area, and I was hitting where I was going to get some warp, all kinds of stuff. So, Infusion. I got the Infusion altar set up. It was being troublesome. Um, I had made about 30 of these candles, put them all over the place. Wasn't helping. The infusions were still, there was like lightning and flux and all kinds of stuff going on everywhere. It was terrible. But I finally got it fixed. Here is what I did. So I put a few candles around just for decoration. They help a little bit with stability. If you look, I'm at very stable now instead of just regular stable. Very stable. I had to reorganize the ThomCraft room a little bit. I moved the doorway over, just kind of replaced some stone and moved it down here and fixed up the carpet. The matrix itself was clipping into the block in the ceiling, so I just put some glass around it and left an empty space. And above the empty space, I put this stabilizer. This is in the research here, Infusion Stabilizer. Here's the recipe. You have to make a arcane mechanism, complex arcane mechanism. You have to make thaumium plates for this, 2 simple arcane mechanisms, and a piston. The simple arcane mechanisms are as follows. Nothing too complicated, just several layers of crafting. I kind of wish that the ME system did this for me, but I had to do all this. It's just a couple layers of crafting, no big deal. The thaumium is what I had trouble with because I had been neglecting making thaumium for a while. And then when I went ahead and actually made all the thaumium, because I was trying to unlock this right here, things that need to be discovered, and there's this research.c_voidstuff.txt. Yeah, the void metal research trees are not in the pack, not in ThomCraft yet, I don't think, in this version. It's still all disabled and locked off down here. It's like forbidden research or whatever, you can't get to it. But yeah, so I thought, hey, if I do all of this other stuff and make all of these other things and scan them, maybe it'll unlock. No such luck. I made all of the armor and tools and blocks of everything, and it never unlocked. And I went and scanned some flux items, some fibrous taint, things like that. It didn't unlock. Speaking of which, did that open up anything over here? No, it didn't. I haven't had the void seed spawn yet above the base. It didn't get that bad. I had a rift that spawned. That's how I got this to start with. And this one. But I haven't got the void seed to spawn because there's research for that. Whenever I was playing on a server with a friend of mine, he actually messed up fairly bad and emptied a whole lot of flux into the area, and I had to fight off a void seed. And that wasn't fun. I died like 3 times. But anyway, yeah, there's research for that. And there's also little slimes that spawn out of the liquid flux that's kind of like created in the world whenever the flux starts to dissipate. So yeah, there's also a void, a flux slime entry somewhere over here. Spoiler warning. Anyway, but yeah, I was trying to get that to unlock and it didn't happen. Anyway, we got the Boots of the Traveler and the Cloud Stepper ring done previously, 2 episodes now. And the Boots of the Traveler, it started having trouble with. And so whenever I went over here to the Headband of Curiosity, I went ahead and set this ritual up once, and everything went south pretty quickly. So I had it all set up. I had all of the essentia I needed. It says instability moderate, and if it was any higher than that, I probably would have lost everything downstairs, because it went all kinds of crazy. There was lightning and things falling off the pedestals and flux forming all over the place, and bad news bears. So I basically had to make all this stuff a second time. I actually have a 3rd fancy belt downstairs. I really wanted this item because if you read what it does, while you're wearing it, half of the experience orbs that you collect are given to you in the form of research knowledge. So it says the rate of return is very low, but every little bit helps. So that actually cuts out the need for this research table entirely. If you're not looking for a specific category all at once, because I think it gives it to you randomly in little bits. I haven't actually put it on and tried it yet. But before I did anything with it, I made this experience obelisk and dumped all my levels in here. I had like 34, 35 somewhere in there, and I used some of them to do research because one of the research options is like you lose up to 5 levels of experience and they get thrown into a category. So yeah, that's where some of it went. But it's not a problem. I can get it from smelting ore, just kind of standing around and cooking things. It gives me tons of experience. So not worried about that. But anyway, after I got the stabilizer set up, it requires power to actually function, or else you're not getting anywhere. So I was either A, going to have to run a bunch of power conduits over to here, which looked bad and would have used a lot of resources. B, just moved one of the cells, one of the capacitor banks over here whenever I wanted to use this, which kind of looked bad and was inconvenient. Or C, find a way to wirelessly transmit power to here, and that's what I did. The RF Tools power cells, basically they're wireless power transmission. They're actually really easy to make. Let's look up the recipe here. Simple power cell, this is the one you want to start with. So machine frame, you got some lapis or blue dye. Yeah, there it is, lapis. 4 iron, 2 gold nuggets. Makes you a machine frame. You want to make 2 of these. 2 or more in an even, well, more than 2, basically. 1 by itself isn't going to get you anywhere. For wireless transmission, you need 2. Once you make 2, you also need 4 blocks of redstone, 2 nether quartz, and 2 diamond for each. So basically double this recipe. I had all kinds of blocks of redstone. If you find one of the roguelike dungeons that spawn in the world, and you delve down into the lower areas of it when it gets to be made out of nether brick and things like that, you'll find blocks of redstone in the floor. Like, you can just mine up blocks of redstone down there. So I had more than a stack of redstone blocks down there from going through 2 or 3 of them. I just had it in storage. So yeah, no problem finding redstone. Plus I have those redstone flowers growing downstairs. I had all kinds and tons of redstone, so no problem. Made 2 of these simple power cells, set them up. There's one over here, right here. I have it set up. You also want to make 2 of these power cell cards. Here's the recipe: 4 redstone, 4 gold nuggets, and a piece of paper. No problem. So you make 2 of those. You put one into a power cell to link it. It gives it an ID number. I played around with it a little bit, so mine went all the way up to ID 4. The first time you do it, it'll have link ID 1. You set your other card in here. It makes a copy of the card. You want them to be identical on the same link ID number, and set it in this one here. So notice they're both link ID 4. That means they are sharing power, just like how the can I get to this one back here? The capacitor banks, whenever they're side by side here, they share their inventory worth of power, and they also share their input and output values. These power cells do the same thing over distance, as long as they have the same link ID. And you can have multiple link IDs and have multiple wireless power generation systems set up all over your base. But anyway, this one over here, I have set up. Ow. Let me get it in here, this little space. I have this one set up to accept power from all sides. So it's getting power from the capacitor bank underneath it, and it's also getting power from the conduit that's right behind it, or to the side over there. And the other one is being set to export on all sides, so it's giving power to the stabilizer. And if I ever need anything else that requires power right here, I can just stick it to the side of this and it's fine. No big deal. But this way it's all symmetrical. It looks kind of neat. The style is roughly the same because this has the squares and square features, and this is square with square features. Yep. Also, orange, bronze, they're similar. It's got the gray. You know, whatever. It's close enough. It's not going to be perfect. Anyway, so yeah, that is stabilizing the ritual down here. And I, after 2 tries, got the headband of curiosity. I actually got some research unlocked from being shot by the lightning. Oh yeah, warp. I generated warp on my character. So it went ahead and told me, hey, warp means you're going crazy, you're going to start seeing stuff and hearing things and taking damage, stuff like that. It was kind of a warning. And it said, hey, make this sanity checker. I had actually already made this before. I had it in the chest upstairs. I had already made it just out of curiosity to see if I had any warp on my character, because I already knew about warp outside of my player knowledge, outside of my, actual character's knowledge. Where did I put it? It's right here. So if you look, there's a bar up in the top left. Let me get my gauntlet off here. The bar in the top left fills up purple as you collect warp. There is now a tiny little bit of it at the bottom of that glass now. It used to be empty, but now there's a tiny little bit there. I don't think it actually gets to where you start seeing and hearing things and taking damage until it gets closer to that first gold bar. And then you're kind of in the danger zone at the second gold bar. And I believe if it fills all the way up, you may just die immediately. Not quite sure. And I don't think it resets on death. Not sure. But before that gets very high, we're going to end up building a spa, which alleviates that and take care of it so it doesn't get bad. Anyway, headband of curiosity, I think has to go in the head bobble slot. Yes, it does. So our goggles are going to go here now. Headband of curiosity. All right. Let me put my caster gauntlet back on. Take that off so I don't light myself on fire. So yeah, headband. Finally got it. Took me probably 2 to 2.5 hours after making all the items twice and making the stabilizer and setting all of this stuff up and figuring out the power and setting it all up. Yeah, probably 2 to 2.5 hours. Also generated a ton of flux in this chunk. So let's go upstairs. I was talking about the flux at the end of the last episode, that last little bit. Almost forgot about it. May need that later. Let's go ahead and grab the nightly research from the stars that you can't even see because my render distance is turned down. Good enough? Did I get all 4? Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure to do this every night. It helps with research. So I went ahead and made a Flux Condenser. And that was another bag of worms, let me tell you. So check this out. Where is it? Is it in Artifice or Infusion? No. Where was this thing? I have forgotten where it is now. Oh yeah, Flux Cleanup. So this thing, here we go, Flux Condenser. Check this out. So here's the recipe. I'll give you a second to look at that, and then tell me what is kind of crazy here. Well, this is a new item, the Morphic Resonator. Not hard to make, though. 2 glass, a rare earth. I had a few of these laying around, so no problem there. Brass, glass, air, ignis. No problem, right? 50 this. Go back. Alright, let's step it up a notch. Complex arcane mechanism. No problem, we made one of these earlier. 2 simples, a piston, some thaumium. No problem, 50 this, right? Let's look at the vis in the area here. 144 in this chunk. Go over here. Move over here a little bit. Ow. Fell in a hole. 170 here, run over here a little bit, 163. Kind of see a pattern. It's in the mid to high 100 range. Yeah, so let's go back in here. Flux Condenser takes 500 this. Oh my god, how do we get 500? Alright, well maybe we have to use the this battery. Nope, that only stores and releases 10. So to get the 500 stored and released for a long enough period of time to create this, I would need like 50 of them. Yeah, no, we're not doing all that mess. So the way to get up to crazy high amounts is the... where was it? Artifice? Arcane Ear, Redstone Relay, Generator, Thaumic, Dioptra. Where was it? Was it the Dioptra? No, this is the little display thing. Pattern Crafter. Where was it? I have now forgotten where this thing was. Recharge pedestal, battery. Oh, here we go. The Workbench Charger. So, here we go. I found it. The Workbench Charger lets you use your Arcane Workbench to pull this from the surrounding 8 chunks as well as the one it's sitting in. Yeah. So I had to make that. And it's actually really simple. Once I had figured out how to do it. It needed 200 vis to start with, so I had to use a couple of batteries, but not a problem. I just went down in the nether where my workbench was set up and threw this together and crafted it real quick. Simple, like pretty easy recipe. It just, the 200 vis was a little bit of a trouble. The vis in the chunk that my workbench was sitting in was at like 140 to 165, somewhere in there. So threw together a couple batteries. The redstone charge, if you redstone signal them. Let's see, where does it tell you? Yeah, they only have a capacity of 10 points. You basically set up a bunch of them, and then all at once you apply redstone to them. It prevents it from functioning and just discharges any vis it's holding. So you just set up a bunch of them. I only used like, I made 6, but I didn't use all of them, just in case. I really only needed like 4 or 5. Actually, I probably only needed 4. I think I was at 160, I needed 200, but I had 5. Anyway, set them all up, and then hit them with a redstone pulse, using lever and redstone line. And they all popped at once, and then I made the Workbench Charger. And then I set that on top of the workbench. I should go down and show you guys, but it's nothing real special looking. It's just a little arc, single block arc looking deal on top of the workbench. But that lets me go up into the like 1400 to 1600 range for crafting purposes. Anyway, went ahead and made the Flux Condenser. You also need... See, now I'm going to lose track of it again. Finding the stuff in the book is a trouble. I probably shouldn't have this much trouble finding it again. It's here, right? No? Flux Condenser? Hello? Aromancy? Anyway, next to the Flux Condenser, it also tells you to make these lattices. There we go. I remembered. Alright, lattices are not too difficult. You need a Sensia filter, super simple to make, some quartz, some thaumium, 100 vis, no big deal. And that's for each one. I made 8 of these over time. I really only am using 1 at the moment though. So that is the thing that actually pulls the flux from the area and channels it into the condenser. The condenser you have to have set up with that on top, 1 or more. If you have more of them, it increases the speed, but also increases the cost to pull flux from the area. Now, the cost is in this. You have to have Essentia in a jar of any type that is not Vitium. I have it directional piped from here up into the side. It accepts from the sides for any Essentia that is not Vitium and exports it to the bottom. So really, this is your option for a setup. Very, very compact. It's functional. It's a little slow if you're trying to reduce the flux in an area quickly. You're going to need more lattices, but you're also going to need a ton of Essentia of other types that are not Vitium, because putting this in there, bad time. According to the book, it's not a good idea, like drastically catastrophic results. I haven't done it myself. I kind of want to just to see what it does, but then again, I really don't want to because then I'll have to deal with it. I may travel like 10,000 blocks out of the way and then try it, so it's not near my base and I don't have to worry about it. But yeah. So it uses 10 Essentia, and it pulls it into there, and then it takes that 10 Essentia and pulls the flux out of the atmosphere and converts it to 1 point of Vitium. So yeah, I've put quite a few bits of Essentia into this thing. And here is the dioptra reading for flux in the area. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a plane of basically no flux in the area until you get right near this thing, and then it spikes up, and then right in the middle of where the spike up, there's a dip down, and that's where that's sitting, right there. So I'm going to have to go into the surrounding chunks and use this. I've got it in this chunk right here, just because this is the one where my arcane smeltery is sitting, and is creating flux, so I'm counterbalancing it with this. My bonsai setup downstairs is creating an insane number of leaf blocks. I'm breaking those down into herba essence, and then bringing the herba upstairs and dumping it in here. So that's what I'm using to power this with. Every 100 herba essence I create generates about 5 flux into the atmosphere, and then it reduces the flux in the area by 10 once it's done processing. So I'm really making progress, but not very quickly. But it helps, just to bring the number down. It was at 90 something, we're at 42 now. The chunk next to this one I think is still in the 70 to 80 range. 56, okay, that one's going down. It may dissipate on its own. 70, so I need to get into this one. This one over here, 61. I don't think it actually causes trouble for you until it is kind of in the 100 range. But yeah, mine was in the 90s, like 96, 97, and then I got this working and brought it back down to 42. So yeah, I'm making progress. It's just a little slow, and yeah. Anyway, that is how you reduce the warp in the area. Unless you like, what's the solution on the forums? If you go to read on the forums online, a lot of people are telling you that the solution is a creative only item to quickly clean up flux in the area. And let me see here. I think it's called a flux sponge or something like that. Yeah, flux sponge. Right click to drain all flux from a 9x9 chunk area. Also removes rifts if used while sneaking. Creative only. So yeah, super cheaty item, but if you're on a server, if you're an admin on a server, or if you're in single player and you don't really care about it and have just accidentally caused a bunch of flux stuff to go on, that's the item for you right there. FoolCraft Creative Flux Sponge. Oh, another thing. When you make these lattices, you want to make more than one. If not for speed, it's because they burn out over time. Once they get used for quite a while, they will clog, and they turn into this clogged flux condenser. They look like that. You actually can't place it. If you place the block, it immediately pops off again. But that thing up there will turn purple and look like this. You have to take it down and replace it with another one, or else it does not function. If you have multiple of these stacked up, because they all have to be above the condenser. If you have multiples, you can't like curve them down here. They all have to be connected, and they have to be above the condenser. The rules are specified in the book here. For these, the condenser is not all that is needed. You also need a special lattice that draws flux from the aura. It tells you the rules in here. Has to be attached to the top. All pieces must be above the condenser. Can attach as many as you want. They can't be more than 8 blocks away. They automatically detach. It is possible to place a large amount of pieces above it, but each one is less useful for each lattice piece it's connected to. So you kind of want to make a grid that is not touching itself, kind of like put a line this way, put a line that way, like a grid with air spaces between each different like branch. But I'm just using the single one right now because I wasn't worried about speed. I'm more worried about efficiency. So over time, this one will cost less to pull the flux out of the area by itself than a giant tree of them, because I'll have to be creating more flux to take care of this than it will be deleting from the area. So just using one at a time until it runs out, and then I'll make some more of the condensers, lattices. But yeah, once it turns purple, it stops functioning. Any of the ones connected to it above it in your structure, so if you have a line of like 5 of these and the second one goes purple and clogs, the 3 above it will no longer function, only the one below it will. So yeah, you have to keep an eye on it. If you have a giant structure of these built, you have to come back and check on it occasionally, or else it won't function correctly. Simple as that. So yeah, I'm just using the one, keeping an eye on it. It's actually not working at all right now. I'm pretty sure it is out of Essentia. It stopped at 85. I can go run downstairs and grab some more and throw it in there, but at the moment, the flux is under control in the area, so I am not really worried about it. It got a little high whenever I was using my infusion altar. I just got to keep an eye on it. The next problem is warp on my character. I have to keep an eye on the warp and take care of that. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to talk about this episode, was the flux and how to take care of it and what I did about it. Oh, and the headband. So yeah. Following this episode, we're going to go play around with the headband and see what it's all about, and see if the research totals move at all. Let's see, where can I look at the research amount in here? If I like click on a thing, here we go, knowledge totals. Yeah, so observation, off the charts. Theory, not so much. One category I don't even have here. I don't have any theory of infusion. The 2 points I had in it disappeared because I used them whenever I was making the research for the headband, I think. Something like that. It's basically entirely at 0. These that say 0 have a little bit of progress towards 1 level, so they show up. I think I've got a couple points in Eldritch knowledge or theory. Not sure. But these bars here should go up as I gain experience on my character. And we're going to go test that out next episode. So until then, thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching. Good luck with your flux and warp. And I'll see you later. Have a good day.